Hello, my name is David Hartful, and I want to talk to you and tell you the story of Walker and Sonora. Please like the video to increase it in the algorithm, and subscribe to not miss a video. William Walker was born in 1824. He's known as the Gray-Eyed Man of Destiny. He had 7 uncles in the press and 5 in the military. Those jobs would foreshadow what he would do in the future. His family did own slaves. He began life studying medicine in Philadelphia and Paris. When in Paris, he realized how decadent the lifestyle was and didn't like it. He went to New Orleans and realized it was even more decadent. And he grew a deep hatred of Catholicism because of that. So he began writing essays in 1849 and put them in the local newspaper and started his journalism career. He often wrote about slavery, and he took a moderate stance because at the time, a hardline stance was not in vogue. His arguments basically centered around the ability and the right of a person to live their life as they choose. Also, journalism didn't quench his thirst. So Sonora in Mexico is the northwest part of Mexico, and Baja is the westernmost part of Mexico. At this time, the area was subject to Apache raids because the Mexican army couldn't send enough troops up there. They were coming off the Mexican-American War, and their military resources were strained. In addition, Sonora was very mineral rich. So Sonora was mineral rich but poorly defended. So the first attempt at colonization came from French Count Gaston Bouillon in June of 1852. He attempted to take French-American citizens down there and take the area. And Mexico supported this at first, but they got in several conflicts, and the Mexican government ran out the French. So Walker knew he couldn't just start a colony there or just attack. So Walker's ruse was that he was going to start a mining expedition, and as part of the mining expedition, they'd have to defend against the Apache raids. So that's what he told everybody, and he started selling $500 bonds for $250. This began in May of 1853. He also said that the women of Guaymas asked him to come down to protect them from the Apaches. So by September, the American government starts catching on to the ruse. So the Navy seizes the ship that Walker was going to depart on to go to Guaymas. So Walker had to secure a second ship and get 45 men, and he snuck out in the middle of the night in San Francisco Harbor. And he arrived in Cabo San Lucas in October of 1853. So the Mexicans were expecting an attack, so they fortified Guaymas. Now, having only 45 men, he knew he couldn't attack fortified cities, so he picked a smaller place, which was La Paz. He took it on November 3rd and took the mayor hostage. Once he did that, he proclaimed Baja as the Republic of Lower California and revealed the twin star flag, which he was going to take over Baja and Sonora. And he also wanted to harken back to the Lone Star State and Order of the Lone Star, which are both two filibuster missions. Also, he reinstituted the slavery by bringing in the laws of Louisiana. So he reinstituted slavery in Baja at this moment. So Walker established a government in La Paz, but he realized La Paz was difficult to defend. So he moved the government seat to Cabo San Lucas because Cabo was closer to the ocean and easier to defend. And he realized he had to begin pillaging for food. So his first stop was the Guadalupe Ranch owned by Don Juan Bandini. This was attacked December 1st. So Bandini is an interesting character because he actually wanted Baja annexed to the United States. He actually had homes in both countries and worked with diplomats to get Baja annexed. But once his ranch was stolen, he was vital in the opposition to Walker. After that, they took La Grulla Ranch, owned by Antonio Melendrez. Now, Malendras hid while they were pillaging, but once they were done, he hopped on his horse and rode to see Governor Luis Castillo Negrete. And the governor and him were able to raise 65 troops And they do the first opposition to Walker by ambushing a group of Walker soldiers pillaging outside La Grulla. Both sides had to retreat. So Walker then seized an ensenada owned by Francisco Castellón. So the Mexican force of Negrete, Melendrez, and Munoz laid siege to the ensenada on 12/4/1853. So Negrete was trying to get the U.S. troops to come and help him. So he leaves with a bunch of the troops, thinking that if the U.S. Soldiers see that there is a small force ready to fight with them, that they would come and help them expel the Walker men. So he took too many people. And then Walker attacked the siege line and broke through. He broke through December 14th, 53. So when Negrete returns, he sees Munoz and tells him there's no U.S. troops coming, there's no Mexican troops coming. And he relinquishes command to Melendrez. And so at this point, it's just up to a bunch of Baja farmers to expel the Walker men. So the Ensenada in San Vicente, they rename it Fort McKibben after a fallen comrade. And they go by boat and attack Sonora for the first time. And they take the city of Santo Tomas, but they had to retreat. So at this point, it looks like Walker's going to take Sonora and Baja. So many people from San Francisco were coming down and joining. And a lot of the people didn't have any formal training as a soldier. And then they were hard to keep in line. So there's very few provisions at this point because they had already pillaged every ranch in Baja. So they found out that Walker was actually, and the officers were eating better than the average soldier. So a bunch of soldiers mutiny and plan to defect. Walker gives this big speech trying to get them to stay, but they refused to stay. Now the men that did stay, Walker tried to get them to attack the men that were leaving, and they refused to do it. So you had around 80 men go to the border and turn themselves in. And at that point, they only had 120 men left in San Vicente to keep fighting. Now, America's trying to stop the diplomatic nightmare of someone going to Mexico and taking over their full state. So they blockade San Francisco Harbor. They disallow people, filibusters, to come down to Baja or supplies go down to Baja. They arrest Walker's recruiter. And they also, the Navy and the Army also get permission to occupy an adobe in San Vicente. So at this point, the Walker men have pillaged everything in Baja, and nothing's left, and they have to go get more supplies. So they attempt to march overland to Sonora, and this is a complete act of desperation. Sonora is probably one of the roughest deserts in the entire world, and there is nowhere for their cattle to graze either. So they actually get up to the Colorado River, they cross the Colorado River, and even after they cross, they realize there's nothing even on the other side. So they have to turn around and retreat back to San Vicente. And most of his force dies on this Sonora crossing. So Walker set up to defend the Calentura Ranch in San Vicente. Melendrez attacked and won. So Walker had to retreat to the Guadalupe Ranch. Now at the Guadalupe Ranch, the Mexican force was larger. But Walker arrived on the battlefield first and was able to take a flat clearing where his cavalry and infantry could both maneuver. Melendrez got there later, and he thought what he would do was attack with the infantry first to open up a hole to allow the cavalry to attack. So when he did this, the infantry got overwhelmed by the cavalry and the infantry on the Walker side. So the cavalry rushed in, but they were only able to get everybody out before complete annihilation. Now, at this point, both groups were exhausted. So Melendrez blocked all the roads deeper into Mexico and left only the road going north open. Now, there was only one last bone to pick, and it turns out that Walker and Mills were harboring a trader named Carrillo. And the Mexicans wanted Carrillo turned over to them so they could execute him. So the Mexicans block the northern road and confront Walker. Walker rushes with 9 cavalry. 1 Mexican dies and everyone else retreats. And once everyone else retreats, that opens the northern road and Walker surrenders to the U.S. Army. And he had actually arranged to be surrendered to the U.S. Army weeks ahead of time. And he surrenders on his 30th birthday, May 8th, 1854. So in July, they go on trial for the Neutrality Act. The judge was a friend of his from New Orleans. And Walker's defense was he only intended to go to Mexico to mine, that he didn't attack until he was attacked. And even if he did, then the infraction would be against Mexico and not the United States. The prosecution showed he was attacking people as soon as he landed, and also he never had any mining equipment on any of the ships. Walker is acquitted and released to deal on his next adventure. Antonio Malendrez was an interesting character. His father was in the Mexican Permanent Guard that patrolled Sonora from in the 1820s. Melendrez was actually on trial for murder at one point. He was acquitted and then put in charge of the dead man's estate. After Walker left, Melendrez built a defense force in case any more filibusters came, and they operated as a police force also when they returned cattle and horses to people who needed them. Well, further south in Mexico, they were worried about Melendrez, so they made up a story saying that he was trying to sell Sonora to the Americans. Now, Melendrez never had the authority to do that because he never had any official capacity in the Mexican government. They have a trial in Sinaloa. They don't even tell him he's on trial, and he never got to defend himself. They convict him of trying to sell Sonora. And so Lieutenant Jose Pujols asked him to come down so he could be inducted into the Mexican army. And that was all a ruse. When Pujols gets him in Sinaloa, he ties him up, shoots him, and And Melendrez dies on June 26, 1855. At the end, Walker ends up expanding American influence in Mexico because while this is going on, the Gaston Purchase is going on. And so because Walker proved that the northern defense of Mexico was so lax, America got a much cheaper price for the Gaston Purchase. And the Gaston Purchase expands the border of Arizona and New Mexico. Well, that's the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe not to miss a video. And also donate, because there'll be a tile at the end if you want to donate. I want to dedicate this video to Antonio Melendrez because I feel like he's the real hero of the story, and he was given a really bad rap. Thank you for watching.